Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here. It is Friday, the 25th of July 2025. At time of recording, nearly 7 pm. And today I noticed an announcement of the third Doctor Who mixed media adventure, Circuit Breaker. Although, according to the article on the Doctor Who website, it actually came out on time recording yesterday, Thursday, the 24th of July. But I didn't know about it till today, and so I'm recording this video not long after finding out. So I'll get into the article in a moment, but first, the mixed multimedia adventures. This is the third one they've done. The first one was Time Lord Victorious, which started in 2020, going into 2021. Maybe some of the releases were pushed back due to the fucking pandemic. Fuck the pandemic. This is the one thing they could get out in 2020, and even then some of that was pushed back to 21, because it was probably in the pipeline since at least a year in advance, maybe longer, because they'd have to get into contact with all of these companies, have the stories written. In the case of the audio dramas, the audio written, and the audiobook, the narration done. The comics, the artwork would need to be done. The books would have to be script edited, and the games would have taken a bit of time to develop. Plus, the escape room would have needed some time to be drafted up, and then the set created. Yes, there was a escape room, a game tie-in with Time Lord Victorious, and that Big Finish audio featuring the Fourth Doctor ties in with that as well. This multimedia adventure primarily focused on Doctors 8, 9, and 10, specifically 10 as the main character, although if you're going to the audio section, it's more 8. And I think comics-wise, 10 for Titan, 9 for Doctor Who magazine. But yeah, and also, like I said, the tie-in escape room game would have followed on from a Fourth Doctor tie-in audio. But yeah, a couple of other Doctors popped up during this this multimedia adventure. As I mentioned, the Fourth Doctor, I believe the 11th Doctor popped up at one point, maybe the War Doctor. I think there might have been a 7th Doctor one. I think at least 7 Doctors were in this multimedia adventure at some point in time, with 8, 9, and 10 being the main ones. And then after the others, 4 was the other one to get a bonus adventure to themselves. And I think the others maybe just appeared at other points. Maybe 13 was the other one, because 13 was the main Doctor at the time, but for the most part it was 8, 9, and 10. And then we got the second multimedia adventure in 2023 to celebrate the 60th anniversary. Whilst Time Lord Victoria sort of served as a sort of a bonus adventure for taking place for Doctors 8, 9, and 10, especially for 10, as it took place between Waters of Mars and End of Time for him, and 8, it would have been probably in the lead up to the Time War. But Doomsday felt more of a spin-off, as it centred on a new character, Doom, played by Snooze Camper, hope I said that name right, who was the face and voice of the character in the multimedia stories, focusing on her. And I believe every Doctor up to Jodie Whittaker's 13th, or almost every Doctor at the very least, got to appear in a story or event featuring Doom. And the premise of this time round was about Doom having 24 hours to escape from death, because she was marked for death and she had 24 hours, and she needs to find the Doctor in order to prevent death from claiming her after these 24 hours. So each story in the multi-mediums were about one specific hour in her life trying to find the Doctor. For example, the first short story I believe that was released for this would have been Sets It All Up, and the last story, I don't know if that's the last hour or if it's following the last hour, so I suppose it's 25 or 26 stories. But the other 24 would have been an hour set during Doom's life. So all of these take place in an hour, which is funny because I think Doctor Who magazine or Titan Comics, one of them, the first hour was very, very short, and then after that you'll have, or at least the story with it is very short, and then you have the other stuff. So for example, the 4 Big Finish audios in the box set that they did count to 4 of the 24 hours. I think Titan Comic or Doctor Who magazine, whichever one I mentioned just now, with the very short first story, that also had 4. I'm not sure about the book. I've been trying to find that bloody Doomsday book since mid-2023, and I have not been able to find it anywhere in stores, at least. Not even Forbidden Planet London, where you probably expect it to be. Oh well, I'm sure I'll find it sometime. If not, I'll resort to buying online. But one day I shall find that book. Yes. By the way, I am glad that the Doctor who at the end of that multimedia adventure was the first Doctor, and tying in with the whole 60th anniversary stuff, because of meeting all of these other Doctors, or referencing meeting other Doctors in these stories. For example, the 8th Doctor in the audio, the book had 9 and 2. I think one of the comics was 6. So they and one of the games was supposed to be 13, but ended up, spoiler alert, being Chameleon. Well, explain that one, unless this is Chameleon from the David Warner universe. But I am glad that it was the first Doctor who was the Doctor she was trying to get back to and speak with at the end. And now we're on to the third story, Circuit Breaker, which is set to begin next year in 2026, this time focusing on the Fugitive Doctor, once again being played by Joe Martin. So the article reads, the Fugitive Doctor leads an exciting new series of adventures spanning across audio dramas, novels, comics, and more. So basically more of the same as in terms of the release pattern, as we saw with the first two. BBC Studios, in collaboration with BBC Audio, Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who Magazine, East Side Games, and Penguin Random House, and Titan Comics, are excited to announce the upcoming launch of Circuit Breaker, a groundbreaking mixed media Doctor Who story set to debut in 2026. Well, the groundbreaking stuff, well, we'll find out when the stories come out, whether it's groundbreaking or not, because otherwise it's, in terms of the releases, in terms of the concept, it's the third one they've done, so it's not groundbreaking in that sense, but maybe the stories will be, maybe the story pitch is. Spanning audio dramas, comics, mobile games, novels, and digital storytellings. This could be like maybe the Doctor Who website stories, like the Doomsday ones, or maybe online games. Circuit Breaker is a bold new chapter in the universe, offering an ambitious, interconnected narrative that will unfold across multiple formats, inviting fans to experience the mystery from every angle. The overarching narrative is crafted by Esme Gempe Pearson, best-selling author. By the way, that's the author of the Church on Ruby Road novelization, and I believe she may have done at least one of the new 15th Doctor original novels. I think one with Belinda that's either come out recently or is going to be the one that's coming out at the end of the year. But yeah, best-selling author and rising star in speculative fiction, and features Joe Martin as the Fugitive Doctor. You can read more from Esme in a recent Q&A from her for her work on Doctor Who here, link to that. And then is a picture of the logo title card, in a sense. So this is going to be the title card that's going to appear on all of the merchandise, much like the Time Lord Victorious and Doomsday ones were. In Circuit Breaker, strange alien artifacts begin appearing inside Unit's Black Archive. Each object is unmistakably linked to a different regeneration of the Doctor, but they've been tampered with. A corrupt energy signature of unknown origins pulses through them, and their sudden arrival has torn tiny ruptures across time and space. Unit is out of options to repair the damage and restore the timeline. The objects must be returned to the exact moments they were taken from. If not, the Doctor's adventures and the universe itself could unravel. Very interesting. So let's say there's some wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff going on, so that with these objects not appearing in these specific stories, either ones we've already seen / heard / read, or brand new ones that are going to feature in this multimedia event. I'm not sure whether it's going to be that or the stories of them being returned, or maybe a bit of both. But these objects seem to be important, and then they're now appearing out of time. They've been taken out of time and appearing in units, so they have to be returned. Which I'm going to read about in a moment. To solve the mystery, Unit calls upon a little-known incarnation of the Time Lord, the Fugitive Doctor, played by Joe Martin, who returns in a central role. So again, going to be the main character of this storyline. But how does Unit know about her? And is she the Doctor they expect? Well, if they know about her, then maybe. So as I mentioned, wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff, and if these objects aren't returned to their normal time and space, then the universe unravels and the Doctor's adventures are away from time, a la the Great Intelligence in the name of the Doctor, changing all of the Doctor's victories into defeats, etc., to um, erase them from time or whatever, whatever his plan was there. So something like that. Joe Martin commented, "I'm thrilled to tell more stories about the Fugitive Doctor and cannot wait for fans to unlock all the twists and turns across the Circuit Breaker story. This character has always meant so much to me, and it's as a joy to continue building her legacy and drive back into the universe." Stephen Davis, SVP Global Licensing, BBC Studios, added, "Circuit Breaker is an exciting evolution for the universe by bringing together world-class partners across publishing, audio comics, and gaming, creating a truly immersive multi-platform experience for fans. This is a bold step in expanding the Doctor Who brand, depending engagement, exploring new stories, and welcoming new audiences into the universe of the Doctor." Again, this is the third one they've done of that, but it's still a monumental task to do nevertheless, and we've got a brand new storyline to explore, so it'll be interesting trying to connect that all together. Circuit Breaker will debut in 2026. So since we got, well, we don't know exactly when in 2026 we're going to be starting it, but it's the end of July 25 now, so from the 1st of August, it's about 5 months to the 1st of January, so we've got roughly half a year, more or less, depending on the actual start date of this, till it starts up. So they're probably still working out the stuff now, they're still working out the story, but they're giving us a longer heads up than the last two, I think. I think Doomsday more or less started not very long after the announcement video and article, and Time Lord Victorious wasn't very long after its announcement either. I think it was within a few months after that. Whilst this could be any time between, I would say, well, Doomsday started in March, April, after the announcement, and Time Lord Victorious was middle to later of 2020. So I think this could be any time between January and May starting up. I think it would definitely no later than June or July. So between just over 5 months from, like, it's 5 months from next Friday, actually. So just over 5 months to just under a year's time, I would say, is when it's going to start up. Again, not sure exactly knowing when, but it will start up. So the partners are BBC Audio, so there'll be like the audio books. There was one for both Time Lord Victorious and Doomsday respectively, one each. Big Finish production, so they'll create a few new stories. I don't know whether this will be a box set like Doomsday or individual stories like Time Lord Victorious. They did 3 8th Doctor ones that were released on CD and download, an 8th and 10th Doctor pair of stories in the same release, which was exclusive to vinyl and download, so no CD of that one. The 4th Doctor tie-in one to the Escape Room, which was CD and download, and the short trips, a pair of short trips featuring 2 older masters, the Roger Delgado and Anthony Amy masters, both played by John Coleshaw, or rather narrated by John Coleshaw, doing their voices. That was also download only in release. So technically there was about 6 audio productions for Time Lord Victorious in a way. And then for Doomsday did a 4-story box set. So not sure what they're going to do this time round, whether they'll do 4 individual stories, maybe a tie-in short trip, or if they'll do a box set with 4 stories. Probably 4. I would be surprised if it was just 3. I would say 3 is probably the minimum, but would more likely to be 4. Doctor Who magazines, they'll probably more likely do, again, either a comic within the magazine or a bonus comic that will come with the magazine that is separate from the main comic that they have each month. Currently, it's the 15th Doctor who's leading that. But maybe they'll do maybe a bonus one. I think they did that for Time Lord Victorious, which was the 9th Doctor's one, and again for Doomsday for them. But the main comic in the actual magazine will be 15th Doctor, or if they decide to do like they did in the Wilderness Years, past Doctor adventure maybe. But again, that could also be the tie-in to this event, but it's more likely it'll get its own separate one that'll come as a supplement to whichever issue of the magazine that it comes with. Then we've got East Side Game, which will be the game side. I'm not sure exactly which one that will be. I'm not quite entirely sure. I don't really follow the games as much, but they've been involved in the last two. Definitely the last one. That's the one that had Chameleon return as well for Doomsday, posing as the 13th Doctor. So a little bit of a disservice to 13 there, considering she was at that present the previous incarnation and the one had the most recent story, as 14 hadn't had any, apart from Liberation of the Daleks in the Doctor Who magazine comics, hadn't had his stories yet. So a bit of a disservice to your then most recent incarnation, and since you couldn't use the then current one, even more of a disservice, a little bit. Plus, how do you explain Chameleon coming back after Planet of Fire, unless it's the David Warner universe one? Then we got Penguin Random House, which will probably cover the books. The previous ones were under BBC Books, so maybe Baby Penguin's taking over from them on the book front, but this finally means we'll get a Fugitive Doctor novel, which I think, besides 14, she's the only one of the Doctors not to have a novel. The War Doctor's had a novel, 15's had a few, including the ones I mentioned earlier, and one yet to be released at the end of the year, and then all of the other Doctors up to 13 have also had novels. Again, only Fugitive and the 14th Doctor have not had novels up to now. 14, I believe, has had short stories and appeared in annual stuff, and there might be some annual related stuff announced later as well, either for the 2026 or 2027 annual. I think Time Lord Victorious and maybe Doomsday did as well for the 21 and 24 annuals. Definitely Time Lord Victorious, I think, for the 21 annual. But maybe there'll be something for the 26 or 27 annual. Maybe the 26 annual is where it's going to start up, but maybe it might be the 27 one instead. Actually, yeah, the 26th annual is probably being published soon, so it might be more likely the 27 annual, if anything does appear in either. It'd be more likely 27s. And finally, Titan Comics will probably get another Fugitive Doctor comics, this time tying in with Circuit Breaker, just like they released the Time Lord Victorious and Doomsday ones as comic events. And also the Fugitive Doctor Origins one is considered a comic rather than just a Fugitive Doctor comic in its own series. Whether they'll release these individually or if they'll just do the collection or both is yet to be seen. But I do expect a collection of those stories to be published at some point later in the year or in 27. By the sounds of it, we've got at least 15, maybe 16 Doctors to play with, counting the War Doctor and each of Doctors 1 to 15. So we could have potentially 16 stories if they do Doctors 1 to 15, all of them, and the War Doctors. You've got potentially 16. Possibly not whoever's following up the 15th Doctor, because we're not entirely sure about that yet, but every other one, and also Fugitive, because she's going to be the main character, she's trying to fix everything, and anyone before her is unlikely. But William Hartnell through to Shooter Gatwick, including John Hurt, and David Tennant again, 14th Doctor, will probably have a story each. Maybe 10th Doctor will have two because they regenerate into themselves, but I'm not expecting them to do an extra one for that. But I do expect them to do 14. Hopefully they'll also do War as well. So hopefully 16 stories or 16 objects tying in with each Doctor, excluding Fugitive, who's going to be the one who's fixing it all for the rest of them. And excluding whoever follows 15, because we're currently at I don't know if it's Billy Piper or not, and even if it is, I don't know what's going on with them at the moment anyway. So yeah, let's just go up to 15 for the time being, and if 16 is confirmed, and if it is Billy Piper, or if it is someone else, then maybe we can throw in a bonus story later, perhaps, or reference that as being the 15 is the cutoff point. because yeah, future Doctors don't get involved in stories that we're making now. Like, 13 would have been the cutoff for Time Lord Victorious, 14 technically for Doomsday, even though it's more so 13. But again, uh, and now 15, maybe 16, but we'll see how that goes, and it's more likely to be 15. Maybe by the fourth multimedia adventure in 2028 930, we'll find out if there's going to be a 16th Doctor involvement, maybe even 17th, depending on how that all goes down. For comparisons, Time Lord Victorious didn't really have a limit on the stories it needed to tell. It could tell as much as it wanted. It had its own animated spin-off dedicated to the Daleks, and a Blu-ray featuring classic and 10th Doctor stories that had already been released on Blu-ray. These were some of the ones from the collection set, and two 10th Doctor ones already released on Blu-ray, one of which already recorded in HD. So they re-released a couple stories that tied in with the event, and yeah, they did quite a bit of stories. As I mentioned, Big Finish contributed 6 things. The books had 2, but yeah, some of these things kind of linked into each other. Like the Daleks webcast sort of served as a prologue or prequel to other stories. The Escape Room is tied in with that 4th Doctor audio. The 3rd, 8th Doctor one follows something else. Brian Yude appears in the first one, so he has. And funny enough, one of the big things was a T-shirt that glows in the dark. That was a key part of the storyline. Meanwhile, Doomsday was more restrictive in how many stories it could tell, as it was restricted to 24 hours, plus maybe the prologue and epilogue stories if they weren't bound by the hours. But definitely up to 24 stories for the rest. As mentioned, Big Finish did 4. Doctor Who Magazine, which I believe had the really short first one where Doom meets River Song, that was also 4, and that first one was bloody short, like a page or 2. And then I guess the book must have also covered at least a few more as well. So, and I think the audiobook covered one. So again, that one had about 22 to 24 hours, depending on where the short stories fitted in. Still quite a bit of stories to tell, and Time Lord Victorious probably could tell roughly 20 to 30 stories as well. Here we look like we're going to be getting just 16 at most, maybe 17 at a push. And like I said, I don't know if either they're going to do the stories of how these objects are important to what's going on, or we're going to be doing the story of the Fugitive Doctor returning them to their proper place in time and space, or maybe a bit of both. I'm wondering at this point in time, maybe it's going to be the main stories of why these objects are important, and at the end the Fugitive Doctor returns the object and then leaves. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's a story in actually returning the object as well. Maybe sometimes it'll be the other way around. Maybe the object is important to a shorter adventure, and then the main one is Fugitive's returning of the object. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the shorter ones are short. The object plays an important role in a short adventure, and then the drop-off is also pretty short. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the shorter ones, that's the case for both. While some of the longer ones, maybe there's a bit more to both sides of that, but not as much as if it was one or the other. But we'll see how it goes. I'm sure each company will either be given or get to choose which Doctor or which storyline they will want to take. If I was predicting anything, as well as like Doomsday, a prologue and maybe an epilogue story, and then a certain number in between. In this case, 16 if they include the War Doctor, maybe 17 as a push if they do a 10th Doctor, a duo of 10th Doctor ones because of their regenerating into themselves, or the 16th Doctor enters the frame, maybe 18 if it's both. It will definitely be no less than 15, although hopefully the War Doctor will be in there, and also 14 as I mentioned, and then pushing it to so hopefully 16, but it will be at least 15. If it's 14, that means 14 and War would probably be skipped, and it's the other it's 1 to 13 and 15. But hopefully they will include all of the mainline Doctors, and they also will include War, so hopefully 16 but 15 would probably be the minimum. I think it would be a mistake to do 14, and anything less is just stupid, because it's supposed to be every incarnation. So anything less than 14, and even then, I'd say anything less than 15 or 16, would be silly. I think 16 is the right one to do if you're encoding all of them, excluding Fugitive, who's going to be the one fixing it all. But I'd understand if they skip the War Doctor. I wouldn't be happy about it, but I understand. I'd understand doing 2 10th Doctors, because he regenerates into dim cells, and or 16th Doctor if they get started by that point, and 18 if it's both. But let's say it's going to be 16. But I'm going to presume it's 16 plus maybe a prologue and an epilogue, like with Doomsday. Again, we could get another one for 10 because he regenerates into themselves. Maybe with the duplicate Doctor instead. Maybe we'll get 16, but it's unlikely. But we'd kind of hope that they do include War alongside 1 to 15, and 14 is also included alongside those as well. And that they don't just have the one David Tennant Doctor. Honestly, I'd rather have 3 David Tennant Doctor stories rather than just the one, because it means at least the other one is being included, not skipped. Anyway, so that's it from me. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.